Hi, Alex.
Hey,
Thank you for
Julian.
being here.
Absolutely, it's my
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure. It really is.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know you, Alex is a professional golfer and caddy on LIV. And it's awesome to have a guy like him on the team because we can really exchange on some important topics that are important for you guys too. So today we wanted to talk about um practice round and how to do a good practice round. So could you give us your point of view on this from your expertise as a player, but also as a caddy on LIV now?
So some of the things that are really important for me is the things I look at is off the tee, where do I want to go, and around the greens. Those are the two main areas that I'm looking at when I walk the course or when I'm playing with my player in the practice round. So off the tees, very often I see players uh they're like, oh, on hole number one it's going to be a 3 wood, right? Like you're playing the practice round at 2 p.m, it's warm, but the next day you're playing at 8 a.m, it's cold, it's a little bit maybe dewy, and it's a little bit into the wind maybe, and you're like, oh, yesterday I hit the 3 wood, oh, I'm going to hit 3 wood again. But it may be a driver that day, or maybe it's the opposite, right? You play 3 wood in the morning and in the practice run, and then you're playing in the afternoon, and now maybe it can only be a 3 iron or 5 wood or whatever you have in the bag. So what I like to do is to write a yardage I want to hit off the tee. So let's say 250 yards on hole number one. That's going to avoid me the bunker, and it's going to carry the hazard. And so I'm like, okay, this is a 250 yards tee shot. Very often you're going to have, oh, this is a driver regardless. It's straightforward. But on trickier hole, I want to ride a yardage more than a club, because the wind may
Absolutely.
change, and the temperature may be different from morning to afternoon, and you have to adapt and not have the expectation of like, okay, this is a 3 wood. No, this is a 250. 250 may be a different club for you guys.
Yeah. Awesome.
Um,
And what would you say are some of the most important details that you look at and that you discuss with Kieran when you're caddying for him? What are some of the most important details that you always look at before making a decision?
so of the tee, we look at the main troubles. So we look at bunkers, we look at hazard, and in practice rounds, it's funny, but some bunkers are not that bad, right? So sometimes we would rather be in the bunker than the water. But some bunkers we really need to avoid, because we're gonna have from this bunker we know we're gonna have to hit the pitch and wedge short of the green or something. So that's are some of the details. Some of the other things we look at when we play, it's more the lie, the wind, things like that. But yeah, um, and the other things we're looking at is really um, around the greens. People always say, "Oh, don't be short-sighted," right? Like, "Oh, you can't really be short-sighted. You got to be away from the flag." But that is not always true. Sometimes, from the short side, you have a much easier chip. It may be uphill into the grain, or or whatever, and you have to look at what flag you can be aggressive at, right? Sometimes, like if you miss the green on the wrong side, you have a much like on the wrong side, you have a much easier chip than on the wide side. That's going to be like straight downhill and very fast and hard to judge the speed. And sometimes when you miss on the short side, you have a runoff, and then you're going to be basically dead and
Yeah.
won't be able to make up and down. So it's very important to have a good analysis of the green, and where you can miss the green and where you don't want to miss. Or it's not about missing, it's more about the pattern,
Yep.
and adjust your pattern to where you can go. So
Yep.
basically the pattern is going to look like an oval,
Yep.
and you can adjust it, your aiming point, with where you may want to go and may not want to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the main things I'm looking at. Like sometimes long is better than short.
Yep.
Sometimes left is better than right on every chip. Sometimes with the left pin position, left is good.
Yep.
And sometimes on the same green, right pin position, right is dead.
Yep.
Right?
That's true.
So that's the main things
Yep.
I'm looking at when I'm I'm walking the course or looking at greens and stuff.
Yep, you were touching on an interesting point. You talked about shot dispersion and patterns.
Yes.
And one super important thing I think is very important for all amateur golfers out there is to understand that you make decisions based on shot patterns, which is pretty much making decisions based on your average shot rather than on your worst or best shot. Would you
Yes.
confirm that?
Yes, I would. Like you, I have a very concrete example, right? We hold 17 in Houston. We have a 6 iron, it's about 200 yards. The pin is all the way back right to the green on a very small portion. It's very, very challenging to get there, right? And at that pin with the 6 iron in our hands, win is right to left. So it's not the easiest win because if you want to go at the pin, you got to start right of the green. If you miss right, you short sided. You have a big bunker there. It's no good. So there, we aimed about 8 yards left of the pin, right? He pushed it slightly, about 10 yards. So he missed like 2 or 3 yards right of the pin, landed perfectly, and was about 10 feet right of the pin, made the putt. However, he missed his shot.
Yep.
And because we aimed properly in the fat side of the green, he was able to make a birdie, but not because he hit the best shot of the
Yep.
day, but because he slightly pushed it.
Yep.
If he hit it perfectly, we would have had between 20 and 30 feet, would have made par and moved on for that very challenging hole.
Yep.
So that's very concrete example of what a pattern looks like and how like, okay, we have a 6 iron, we're aiming 8, 10 yards left
Yep.
because we have no chance to get to the pin except if he miss it.
Yep.
And he did miss it and he pushed it. Thankfully, he's good enough to miss it nicely, but
But that was
this
part
is,
of luck as well.
yes, this is part of golf. Sometimes it could have missed it left and have 60 feet and probably would have made par too. So because we aimed properly, we didn't really put the bogey into play. And because of the pattern, we made a birdie because he rolled a nice
Yeah.
10, 12 footer. So
Perfect.
that's
Wow.
very, very interesting to know
Yeah,
and understand.
that's great course management there. Because if your course management puts your average shots like this one, that was an average shot. If that puts your average shots in bad positions, that means you did a bad
Yeah.
decision making. But usually, great decision making is rewarded in these types of situation, and that was the case. And so I had one more questions for you. What would you say is the most common attribute that you see these players having on tour? So what would you say is one thing that is common to all of them and they're all great at compared to what you could see on amateur levels or stuff like this?
So one of the thing I've noticed really is that everybody is very competitive.
Yep.
Everybody wants to do well, and everybody, I want to say, is not happy with bad shot. Like everybody gets a little bit angry, gets a little bit agitated on shot that does not meet the expectation.
Yep.
However, the way they react is what makes the big difference. And the way they react from day to day may be different for the same player because of how you feel, because of your mental state, and what I'm noticing is guys that react calmly and stay patient and stay focused. Usually, they end up making better rounds than the guy that gets frustrated, right? So, playing in Singapore this year, played the first round with Sam Horsfield, right? Kieran and Sam were playing the exact same all day. However, Ken was having a great attitude, was motivated, was focused, was dedicated, stick to his game plan, didn't get frustrated. And Sam, I felt was getting frustrated, was shouting at his caddy, was I felt like pushing it, trying hard.
Forcing it.
It was forcing it. That's the word I was looking for. And at the end of the round, Kieran shot maybe 200 and Sam Hosfield shot one or two over.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between T20 and T40.
Yeah.
Right? This is the difference is huge. So I'm not saying Kieran is great and always has the best attitude. And I'm not saying every player always has the best attitude. That's not what I'm saying. But on that specific day, specific moment, um, Kieran had a very good attitude and Sam didn't have a very good attitude. And the game levels seemed to be the exact same.
Yep.
They were hitting the same kind of shot, having the same kind of birdie opportunities. And at the end of the day, Kieran beat him by 3, 4, maybe
Yeah.
even 5 shots. I don't
Yeah.
really remember. And that really was because of Kieran's attitude.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I remember on the last hole, he made the 40-footer.
Yep.
Because I felt like he stayed patient and just like stayed committed to his game plan and his
Yep.
routine.
Absolutely.
And he got rewarded.
So would you say that the manner game is what makes the difference at exactly the same skill and technical level?
Yeah, I would say it is. I remember in Las Vegas, we played with Sergio Garcia the last round. And on live, as you may know, we start on shotgun. So sometimes we start on very challenging hole, right? Which is can be interesting. And so we're playing with Sergio Garcia last round. We start on hole number 9. And hole number 9 um, is usually a par 5. Then move into a par 4. There's water in front of the green. I mean, it's probably the hardest hole out there. And Sergio made a double there, like chunk his wedge in the water. And people may think Sergio is like always very angry. Like you've seen highlights,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Like him, like not being the most happy guy when things doesn't go his way. However, on that day, didn't say a thing, just moved to the next one. And I remember I shot maybe 3 under. It was one of the best 3 or 4 rounds of the day.
Nice.
And just
Great.
because like he didn't react, didn't get ahead of himself, stay patient, stay in his routine. Sergio Garcia is also an unbelievable player,
Yep.
but because he was able to not get mad, not get frustrated, not like get ahead of himself, he was able to go back and shoot a good round. Um, there's a great example, Tyrrell Hatton. I have the chance to play most practice round with him. We're on the same team on Legion 13, and people may think that he's very angry, is whatever you may think of it, right? But if there's one thing I've learned from playing with him a good amount, is that he never brings the bad energy and the bad attitude into the next shot. So sometimes, yes, that's right. Like he's gonna swear a little bit, he's gonna slam his club. However, the next one is always 100% committed. I
That's
remember
awesome.
we played with him in Singapore, and we were about to finish the round. Put his iron shot in the water on the par 3, 15, and got very upset because he pulled this shot. He usually doesn't pull shot. He's usually very straight, and was debating for about 5 minutes with the guys where the ball crossed, and
Yeah.
we called referees, and honestly, it could have been a disaster. Like he was complaining, like, oh, like I shouldn't drop here, I should
Yeah.
drop here, whatever. And we finally agree on where he should drop, hit his chip to a foot.
Nice.
Just like, okay, like all of the BS is behind,
Yeah.
and now I'm focused to the moment,
Yeah.
and I'm getting the most of it. And it chipped to a foot, made a 4,
Nice.
didn't make a 5. That would have been much more upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to
Sure.
recover from a double. From a bogey, it's only one birdie.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of attitude, being positive and being in the moment and staying focused.
Yeah.
That is really what makes a great player and what makes an average day be good instead of disappointing.
Well, awesome. Thanks, Alex, for sharing all of these cool
Absolutely.
stories and insight with us. And well, good luck
Thanks.
to your next
Appreciate it.
tournament.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely look at your results and see how things are going. And good luck to Legion 13. I mean, you guys keep winning,
Yeah.
so I don't think you
Yeah.
need luck. All right.
Thanks.
See you soon, man.
See you.